Joyce Raimondo. I am the education coordinator at the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center. Let me move over here. We're a national landmark in East Hampton, New York. We're located 100 miles east of New York City, and we're the home of the foremost abstract expressionist artists, Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner. And today we have a special presentation by our former artist in residence, Marie Claire. And help me pronounce your last name, Marie Claire.
Chabauty.
Chabauty. Okay. I'll try a little better. Marie is in Canada, in Montreal, and we're going to hear from her today about her experience being an artist in residence at the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center and the Elaine de Kooning House as well, and she's going to share her art. Now, before we get to that, we're going to go back in time, and we're going to take a look at Marie Claire's exhibition at the Pollock Krasner House from over the summer. And we are also going to have a little brief tour of the Barn Studios so you could see where Marie Claire got her inspiration from, okay? Before we begin, I'm going to read Marie Claire's bio, and then you'll have a chance to say hello, Marie.
Perfect.
So I am so proud to introduce Marie Claire. And Marie Claire was born and is currently residing in Montreal, Canada. She holds a BFA with a major in painting and drawing from Concordia University. Since graduating, she has been involved for a number of years with Articule, an artist-run center. She's also worked for 3 years with an organization called Impatience, where she gives workshops. And this organization helps people dealing with mental health issues through art therapy. And as we go along, Marie Claire will tell us how she came to be an artist in residence at the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center and had a one-person exhibition in the museum in 2025. So we're so happy for you, Marie Claire. She's an amazing artist. So Marie, anything you want to say before we begin?
Well, let's do the tour so people get an idea of the place and the exhibition. It's truly a special, special place. There's so much presence there. So I think we should start with your video and then I'll explain. I have most of the work that I did and I presented it in a chronological sequence. So you'll see my process and how I went about it. So yeah, I'll leave it to you with the video.
Okay, great. I'm going to do a walkthrough and then we will present our artist in residence. This is Lee Krasner's painting cart. This is the birdhouse that Pollock made for his pet crow, Caw. I'm in the Barn studio. These are Lee's paint pigments, powders that she mixed with oil. Way up high, you'll notice there's a skeleton. And that was taken by Pollock from the Art Students League where he studied as a young man. They used that, of course, to learn drawing anatomy. Now, Pollock, he used this Barn studio, and later, Lee used the studio after Pollock's death in 1956. So in order to go into the main part of the barn, which is right here, I am going to put slippers on. So bear with me a moment. And we will do a quick walkthrough of the now famous Barn studio. So here we see evidence of Pollock's drip painting. This is not a painting in and of itself. This is the barn floor where Pollock placed his canvas and drip paint from sticks to create his 100% abstract art. And we see the rectangles, which are, we call the ghost marks of where his paintings once were. Here we have Pollock's paints. For his drip paintings, he used house paint rather than art paint. We also see basters and the stirring sticks were used as a painting implement. The bastages were used to spray paint onto the canvas, and often he used the brush to drip paint as well. Now, Pollock's technique is very varied. Sometimes he would put sand and broken glass into the paintings, and as he says, other foreign matters. This photo was taken by Hans Namath in 1950, and it shows his famous action painting. He places the canvas on the floor so he can work from all four sides. Gravity pulls the paint down, and wherever the paint lands, rather, it stays. We do have historic photos on the wall. I'm not going to go into detail because that is part of another program. Here's Pollock with one of his dogs. They had two dogs, Gypsy and Ahab. Pollock with his pet crow, Caw Caw. Pollock rose to fame during his own lifetime, and this is the famous Life magazine article, "Is he the greatest living painter in the United States?" So Pollock, as he rises to fame, so do all the other abstract expressionist painters in the area. Tragically, Pollock dies in 1956, and Lee was in Paris at the time. Pollock was drinking and driving, and he took the life of one of the passengers, Edith Metzger, with him in that accident. And Ruth Kligman, his mistress, survived the accident and lived to tell the story. Some of these photos and the placement of objects in the studio has recently changed since our visiting artist Marie Claire was here in 2024. This is a famous photo of Lee taken by Hans Namath in 1961, and you see her abstract paintings on the wall behind her. Pollock and Lee did not paint in here together, but she did use the studio as her studio, this barn, 1 year after Pollock's death. And we see Lee's paintings were painted on the wall, hung on the wall, and we see the drips and splatters where her paint splashed onto the wall. And we can even identify where she made certain paintings based on the colors of these splats. And here is a photo of Lee. Now, this floor is solely Jackson Pollock's. Why aren't Lee's marks on the floor? Because when Lee was in the barn studio painting, this was actually covered with boards that Pollock and Lee had placed over this floor to renovate the studio. When this became a museum after Lee's death, the conservators came in and lifted off those boards to reveal Pollock's magnificent floor underneath those boards. It's not a work of art, it's just the accidental drips and splatters. I do want to show you again this skull because you will see this in one of Marie Claire's paintings. So let's go into the house, and bear with me, I'm going to take off these little spongy slippers. A quick look of the property, and we will go into the house to see the featured exhibition. It is July 30th, 2025, and it's a sunny, hot summer day. So let me lock up this barn, and we'll do a quick walkthrough. And there is the barn behind me. This was actually a fishing shack, and I will show you its original location in a moment. Pollock and Krasner moved here in 1945, and they bought the property in 1946 with a loan for the down payment from Pollock's patron, Peggy Guggenheim. And here we see, which is very hard to see in this light right now, but that's Accabonac Creek. There's a body of water way in the distance,
that goes all the way out to Montauk. There's marshy property, and then there's the foundation to the barn, which is right there. And Pollock and his friends moved the barn to this location so as to not block this spectacular water view. So let's go into the house. This is an old farmhouse, 19th century farmhouse. When they bought the house, there was no plumbing. So they used this outhouse, which of course Lee was not accustomed to this country living. She was born and raised in Brooklyn. She was a city person. Of course, they did renovate the house and eventually they put 2 bathrooms in. They also had no central heat when they moved in, and the entire town was pretty cold. Now, I want to show you Marie Claire took inspiration from these shingles, and she'll tell us more about this. She studied carefully these shingles and pulled out images from looking at the patterns that are on these shingles of the house. So I wanted to sort of show you the actual shingles, which of course it's hard to capture this on a recording. And then she will tell you about how she used some of this imagery and improvised to create very small works based on some of these shingles, really as a springboard for her creativity. So here we are on the first floor of the house. And I want you to see this view in particular because, let me see if I have everything. You see the sculpture by Ronald Stein, Lee Krasner's nephew. And we see this fish, which is a Japanese fish print, which Lee's friend caught that fish in the bay and printed out that fish using the actual tarpon fish. And then we will see this very careful composition that Marie Claire created in one of her small works, which is really, really intricately done and remarkable. And her full name, of course, is Marie Claire Chabauty, and I hope I pronounced that right. These are some of her small works here. So we see, for example, in this one, the barn and some of the other structures on the property. That was one is a garage and the other is a storage room, which are now used as an office and a gift shop. And as we walk through, you're going to notice some of these imageries in her work. This, of course, is the house itself. This painting is very small, and it is very, very realistic and very beautiful, and proudly displayed right under Pollock's painting from the early days. This Pollock painting is untitled, composition with red arc and horses, done in 1938. So as you can see in this installation, these works by Marie Claire are very small and very, very, in my opinion, intricately painted. I'm going to do a walkthrough. I'm not going to talk about them that much because Marie Claire will fill in her presentation. This is an anchor that Pollock and Lee picked up at the beach and hung it up. It's ready-made art. And here are some other works by Marie Claire. She calls these assorted studies done between 2024 and 2025. And she will do a PowerPoint presentation where these will be much clearer to see. This is interesting. We see the shells, which you see on actually a table, which I will show you right now. I believe this is the actual shell. I could be wrong. Maybe it's a different one. Lee collected a lot of natural items from the beach. I think it's from this still life that is sitting on this cabinet. And here is this magnificent painting of the fish and the sculpture by Ronald Stein. This is a view of the parlor, which we will walk into in one moment. And you will see how Marie Claire sort of gives these spaces a very magical quality, and she's free to improvise the color and even distort the spatial relationships, which gives these paintings sort of a mystery and an imaginative quality, in my opinion. So here is the parlor. This is a painting by Lee, or rather a lithograph. It's by Ben Bianchi, Lee Krasner's friend, assistant rather. And here is Marie Claire's painting of the skull, which is magnificent. And let's take a look upstairs. Oh, well, actually, this is magnificent. It's hard to see. I love this view of the barn. It's very streamlined the way she painted it. And here's a painting of the shingles. She also has paintings interspersed with these views of the Pollock Krasner house. Marie Claire also painted Elaine de Kooning's house and studio where she was housed during her residency. And here's Lee Krasner's bedroom. The first year, Pollock used this room as his studio, and then Lee used this room as her studio while he was alive. After his death, she moved to the barn. Is the kitchen. And I hope you enjoyed this abbreviated tour. And now we will hear from Marie Claire. Happy that you are with us today to present your art and your process. So would you like to begin your screen share, or you want to say a few words about your process before you show the art?
Well, first I want to say this was like such a wonderful trip through memory lane. It seems to be like this happened, the show I exhibited last July, as you said. And it seems to be already, time flies by so fast. So it was great to see it again. And what an experience. You were also wonderful. And I had a great, great time. Like I felt really welcomed, and I felt like I really got to meet the place and meet Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner through all of you, through stories and all the anecdotes that you guys know. So yeah, I think I should share my presentation, share the work, and I'll go along with the process. And I hope everybody can understand me well because
Oh,
I
you
have this outrageous accent since I'm
I have
francophone.
one too, Marie. So, but I'm wondering, actually, I just want, because I'm sure people are curious about, maybe I don't know if you're going to cover it, but people are probably curious, like you're in Canada in Montreal. Can you tell
How
us
I
the
got there.
story of how you got to the Pollock House?
Well, I'm one really lucky girl because Matthew Ward, who's the director of the Pollock Krasner House since January 2024, I think. He was following me on Instagram because I used to do wrestling paintings like WWE big wrestlers paintings, and not fan art, but like I would do these wrestling beasts, so merging the bodies together and turning them into these new entities. And Matt started following me, and right before actually he got the position, and right at that time I went to my parents to go cat sitting because they were on a trip, and I started doing paintings from the neighborhood, so houses and um, trees and things like that. So Matt had the idea of opening this program for residency. So I was the first one to get to experience being an artist in residence at the Pollock Krasner House. And maybe a month before I went to Long Island, he started talking to Chris Burns, who's the owner of the Elaine de Kooning House and Studio, and they decided to do the program together. So I had the opportunity to stay there for the 2 weeks. And this is another space that's like out of this world. Go check it out. It's like the studio, it's such a beautiful architecture. The light in there is magnificent. And usually I always work with music here, but I decided to go without music to be really with my thoughts and with the space and try to take in as much as possible of what my surroundings were about, not just what I'm about. And I think that's coming through the paintings. So the Elaine de Kooning paintings will be more about the architecture because it's still the house of Chris Burns. He still lives there. So I didn't feel as comfortable painting like the kitchen or places that he still uses because I don't wanted to respect his privacy a little bit, and that wasn't conscious. It just happened. So the Elaine de Kooning house paintings are way more architectural, about geometry, the volumes, the light. As the Pollock Krasner house, it's more a testimony of the people who live there, especially Lee Krasner. I think she's way more present because she lived there for a really long time. As with Pollock, I think he comes more through the shingles paintings, like they're more about these surrealist, dreamlike, nightmarish, tortured places a little bit. So I think he comes more through this part of the body of the work and more about. I was obsessed with the rocks, the trees, and all these things surrounding the house and the studio. So I think Pollock's presence is more uh, coming through these paintings. So you'll see they're very different. So yeah, I was just lucky that I was at the right place, the right moment, and Matt had the idea, and he started because Matt is doing a lot of really great things for the Pollock Krasner House. He started a podcast. He's bringing in musicians. So yeah, he's opening doors for artists, and is really about process and the art. So I suggest you go listen to the podcast too. It's really interesting. People talk about their processes and how they go about art and creation. So yeah, that's it. That's how it happened. And since then, it opened doors. And yeah, I'm so happy. You have no idea how great it is.
Oh, we're so happy that you were able to have the experience and share with us your creativity. So would you like to do the screen share now?
Sure. So bear with me. I hope it will work right. So to start, I just wanted to show you a little idea of the studio and how I go about how I work. Because I paint directly on the surface. I usually paint on wood. And as you said, Joyce, I work on small formats. That started with the pandemic because I didn't have any space. I had to work at home. Office was at home. My boyfriend at the time moved at home, so I had a really tiny space. So I started doing these little paintings, and I really started liking working small because I think as a viewer, it becomes like a secret. You really have to interact with it. You have to come up close to it. You have to take time, and they reveal themselves, but once you're close to them. So started working small. So this is a picture of the Elaine de Studio, Elaine de Kooning studio. And you see it from this little um, kind of living room adjacent to it. And it was in the evening. So the window is completely dark outside. Like this window is huge. It's maybe like 18 feet tall. It's huge. So my process, I work directly on it. I start by mapping the shapes. And also the second picture that I've put often on my cell phone, I like to reverse the image just to see the composition, how it's working. Is it dynamic? Is there something that's really off? Because when I work directly, often there's some distortions and I like them. So I just want to see what I keep, what I lose, and yeah. And the finished painting is down there. I have it bigger later, but it's just to show a little bit how it goes. So I never draw first, and it's the same when I draw. I just go straight on the medium and work with what happens because I think it's a little bit like an action painting in a way, in the sense that my subconscious comes through. I think humanity is revealed through the mistakes. When it's too perfect, it's like really planned, and I prefer to have surprises and have like these problems to deal with. So then it's full on creativity. I'm not stuck. So that's my way of working, and to go around these kind of set expectations when we start a painting. It's usually tough to start, so I just go for it and we see what happens. So I decided to show you chronologically what I've done. I won't stop on everything because since they're small works, I did a lot. But this was the first day that I got at the Elaine de Studio, Elaine de Kooning studio. It was so big that I was so worried. I just had to fill it. So I started right away. That was the first evening. So again, more architectural, more shapes. And as you can see, this one was not in the first painting was not in the show because it didn't really work. It's a little bit crooked, but that's the kind of distortions that happen when I work straight on the medium. Sometimes it's not happy accident, sometimes it is. So yeah. And this was my first day at the Pollock Krasner house. So this is the Accabonac Creek that Joyce was talking about. So this was painted on a motif. I was there working outside and just trying to catch the light. I also like working on wood because you have the wood grain that I can work with. Again, that creates distortions or texture. So it's just another way to make the painting more interesting and be really painterly, not too graphic. That's another one. That's one of the rocks because Pollock excavated big rocks. He wanted to do sculptures with them, but they turned out to be too hard and he didn't have time to work with them. So they are sitting in front of their house. We saw them in the video. And with time, you have all this moss that grew on it and all these colors. So yeah. And I don't know why I added the red. I think it was just for the composition. It worked and made it more dramatic because I like dramatic. So this is the studio. That was all done while I was staying at the studio in Long Island. Um, the shingles, I don't know why I think it's because of the textures of them, but I was really interested in their looks, the textures, how they encapsulate these two worlds, the studio and the house, and they're everywhere in Long Island too, so they're very typical. So I did quite a lot with the shingles and the studio. Um, Actually, the textures is because the first painting I didn't like it, so I scraped it off, and I kind of liked how it created legs and roots going in the land. Again, as I said, for me, Pollock is really linked to the land. He's really into nature. Um, yeah, you feel kind of a sadness too over there. Maybe not sadness, but yeah, sadness, I guess. So I think this painting encapsulate this, and I didn't add the trees. I just used them as ghosts a little bit, as ghost shapes, and went for the barn in a very graphic manner because I like that contrast. I like to create contrast in the paintings to keep them interesting visually. And as I said earlier, these are Elende Kooning Studios paintings, so way more graphic, way more geometric, less about the people who were there, a lot more about the space itself. It's so magnificent. It's like the queen of studios. So again, cannot go around it. And here a little comparison. So this is the bedroom of Lee Krasner and Jackson Pollock. And I like how there's a distortion happening because I took the picture from outside. So it kind of looks to me like an Alice in Wonderland kind of entryway. As Joyce said, I like to find like magic realism. I like when you know what it is, but at the same time, it doesn't quite work. And you wonder, like, what is that space? How is it possible? And you start asking questions about contradictions in the space. And here, the big window, and you'll see later I reworked that painting when I came back to Montreal because I didn't like it anymore. When I was there, it was fine. It was more about the light, but when I came back, I wanted to make it very geometric. So you'll see it later. Here's my tiny painting on this huge floor. So again, you have some paint marks from previous artists who have been in residencies at the Elende Kooning house. So a little bit like Jackson Pollock's studio and Lee Krasner, but more Jackson Pollock's. You see marks and you're part of a history. So I kind of like that. And the studio was very scary at night. I'm a city girl too. So every noise, when cars were passing by, you had all these shadows activating the studio. And this picture was taken from my bedroom. So I wanted to make like, there's this big wall that turns. So it was going kind of like in this void a little bit. So yeah, this is my imagination at night. I'm still a kid and scared of the dark, I guess. And the same night I took that picture, I had the idea for this painting. I was trying to fall asleep and I somehow just had this image in my head of putting the side of the house on top of the profile of Lee Krasner. The artist who painted that painting is in the house is, what's his name, Joyce? I can't remember.
Bob Pontahoff?
Yes.
Former boyfriend before Pollock.
Yes, so there's a couple of drawings and paintings that he made of Lee Krasner. So I used it as a base and superimposed the house. I didn't show them and I don't have them in my presentation, but I made some masks myself to wear. Well, maybe helmets, I guess, of the house and the studio. So I guess that's kind of the same idea of just being the house, because when you're in the house, you really feel Lee's presence. She's everywhere with her shell collection, with the art, how the place is furnished, and yeah, you can really feel her presence still. It's like a time capsule in there. So that was the idea behind it. And the skull, because I mean, it's a classic, making this kind of painting. How do you say that again? I don't remember
Like the still lives.
Yes, but when it's about death, how do you call it again?
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. Not that important, but I was really struck that I didn't paint any humans while I was there, except that skull. And you'll see a little bit later a group of visitors that were with you, Joyce, to do the program, to do the painting and Pollock style after and all of that with kids. And that's like a skull of a real human. This is not a model. It's a really human. Like you see there's some teeth missing and you see characteristic, like both sides are not equal. So it's the only painting I did also inside the studio. I couldn't paint in there because it's it felt like being inside a church, I felt I couldn't speak too loud. I couldn't paint too much. Like it wouldn't do any justice to it. It's a place to be experienced. So this is the only one I did. So you have a little bit of the tools of Lee Krasner, but that's it. I took pictures, but I couldn't really paint from them. Also, the first shingles paintings that I showed you, the corner, that's from the outside of the studio, the barn. Those are two paintings. I think they're kind of portraits of Lee and Pollock. So the first painting, it's just little trinkets that are hung in Lee Krasner's bedroom. And to me, they look kind of like characters or Muppets or something like that. They have a lot of personality, and I think it shows like Lee's personality a little bit. It was kind of um, like stern, but at the same time a woman and a beautiful woman. So yeah, so that was it. And for Pollock, at first I wanted to do all sorts of things hidden in the ground because there's a lot of stuff buried on that property. Like there's a lot of stories about their ground there, and to me it talked about death also, but roots and all of that. But I decided to just leave it empty so the viewer can project whatever they want with the grain of the wood and the different tones in the browns. And also the finished painting, I thought it looked a little bit like an archbishop hat, or a pope or something like that. So again, to me it spoke about my experience of the studio, how it's like church-like. It's very I had reverence for it, so I kept it like that. And then just to show you little sketches that I've done, that's not part of the show, but there's this sculpture that I really liked. So again, for drawing, I would just go really fast, draw straight on the paper, and see what happens. And I like the little volumes that it created. They look like little beings or little houses. I don't know. You can project what you want on them, but I thought they were quite whimsical. And then those are the two last paintings I did while I was there. They're from Elaine de Kooning studio. So those are both in the studio. And I used colors over there that I never used usually. And I think it's partly because of the sea that was close by, seashells. Also the light in the evening, that's really pink and orange. So I think that came through a lot in the paintings from the studio, just because it's all white, so I could superimpose all these colors. Also at the Pollock Krasner house, there's some pictures from the inside of the house that I did with that same kind of palette. That reminds me of the nature around there. So the sea and the beautiful light in Long Island. So when I came back, first thing I did is this huge drawing, and I don't know why. And it wasn't part of the show, it didn't make the cut, but this was my bedroom. And when I came in the first day, I had this beautiful light coming through this huge window, and it was all gold. It was like bright, bright gold. So when I came back, I guess maybe it was to bring it back with me. That's the first thing I did. So this was graphite and soft pastel. And the shingles that Joyce told you about. Because when I came back home, I had all these great ideas and like grand projects that are basically not what I do, and I got stuck. So that's how I started with the shingles. I thought I can't reproduce them very like there's no point in doing them perfectly. So it kind of opens the door to play and see what happens. And there's so many of them, and I'm making small paintings. My paintings were basically the same size of the actual shingles. So I could just basically go about it and play and have fun. So I'll go through them a little bit quickly. But what I did is just number them. So that was A1, B1, B3, things like that. So just so I know where I was in them, so I could go back and paint. So here are some of them. And I would paint them like in bunches, so 2 or 3 at a time, sometimes 5. And I didn't know what would come through. Like this one is very uncomfortable for me because I see penises everywhere, and I don't like seeing that. But oh well, it is what it is. Maybe you see something else because I'm projecting on it for sure, but whatever. So yeah, they're little worlds full of people, writings. I would go about them just trying to look for eyes. If I could see symbols, sometimes I would see like letters or claws or legs, things like that, just to have some anchor. And then to balance the shingles, I had to prove myself that I could still paint. So I went back to painting a realistic painting. That's again a portrait of Lee. And this is in our old studio. And there's this lamp, and those two sphinx were on the lamp. But since I couldn't paint them big enough, I decided to take them out. And now with time, I see them as me meeting the house a little bit. Like they're kind of meeting each other, and that's the meaning I've imposed on them. But I don't know. So back to shingles, because again, as I said, I did the presentation in a chronological order because often I work on something and then I need to prove myself that I can do something else. So I need that balance. So I go back and forth in between styles. So once I told myself, okay, I can paint, I want to go back to the shingles and explore more. So I went back and then, okay, I did enough of the PK house. I need to do Ellen de Kooning's paintings. So this is again that big window at night. So what happened in the back, I always have this painting that I use for leftover paint. So whenever I paint and I have some leftovers, I just throw them on the canvas, on the wood, and I do not think about it. Whatever shape is there is going to be there, and we'll see later. So that's the background, and I decided to add little eyes everywhere because it felt like I was looked at from everything outside that I couldn't see. And just this big window, and Joyce remarked on it when I was there that it looked like a cage a little bit. And I kind of liked the idea because it was keeping all these beings outside. Like I was safe inside, but stay out. And the studio during the day with the beautiful light, soft again, feeling comfortable. So again, a balance in between the two. Going back to shingles. This is actually my favorite painting of the shingles. I like that it looks kind of like a parade of animals. As I said, I see horns, I see eyes, little beings everywhere. And then this was a fever day, so I had COVID. And I like how it looks like feverish yellow, and you see that it's all wrong and suspended. So I thought that was interesting. It's as much about me as about as it is about the place itself. And this is, as Joyce said, a little view that's a little bit strange. I like being in that position and putting the viewer in that position of being a little bit voyeur. Like you'll see things that you wouldn't see normally or you wouldn't pay attention to. And it creates like these mazes of places where you can go through with your eyes and navigate through it. Again, that same painting from the beginning when I showed you the process. And this one was, the second one was an answer to the first one. So it was the light, the line of lights in the background. That was an answer to the first one. So I think they look a little bit like spaceships in my mind. And the second one was on the veranda of the Pollock Krasner house. So I used to have lunch there. I would sit and just enjoy the quietness and yeah, imagining if they were there, sometimes they would have stayed there and maybe enjoyed lunch too, since there's a little table and I don't know. And the Linda Kooning house, the studio at night. So this is again a view from the little lounge area with the book collection and all the light coming from everywhere because as you see, it animates when there's cars passing by through the trees. So that was the idea of this painting. Two drawing of rocks that I didn't include in the show, but I kind of like them. Again, drawing directly on paper. Some views. of outside of the house. The rocks, the first one, you see the rocks that Pollock excavated I was talking about. And I like how the nature kind of frames them around the house on a really sunny day. It was so hot when I went last summer. It was like 35 degrees all the time and very humid. So I think that painting shows it. I'm quite happy with the light in it. This is the only painting that I said with living people in it. So Joyce was hosting this group for a workshop, and they were kids. And I painted it thinking of a little bit of jazz music. So there's body parts missing everywhere. I think there's only one character that's complete. Everybody's missing an arm, a neck, a face, or whatever. So I thought that was kind of playful. And it's, to me, it says, like, I didn't think of that when I did it, but it tells me that the space is still alive. People are going there. It's very much part of the community in Long Island. So I guess that's why I painted it. Some views from inside the house. Again, the shell colors that I was talking about, the end of the daylight, so more pinkish light. That painting of, I think those two look like being under the sea a little bit, so I just painted it, but without paying attention too much to the space. I wanted to combine the space. Same with the seashells. I wanted to make like a composition that's very integrated, that kind of becomes a seafloor a little bit. And this was my painting for, I was kind of depressed, the after Christmas depression phase that I have every year. So you kind of see it in the painting. It's kind of washed off. I painted over, erased stuff. I didn't like it too much, but still soft and very wintry colors and a little bit of that seashell element. So, and back to the shingles, because I wanted more shingles. So here I think they look more like writings. You have all these little characters that are reminding a little bit of Lee's little images, just symbols that mean nothing, but that could be an alien language or something like that. More shingles. Those are the two last paintings I did from the Pollock Krasner house. So this is the entrance to the old studio, and this is the view from the window of the old studio. And I didn't realize until I did a presentation that they were both linked in that way, that they're going into that room and looking out from that room. And those were the last paintings. And the last paintings from the Elaine de Kooning house. So more graphic, about just like big shapes, bold shapes. I think, again, just to try to remember what the space was about. And then the two ones that I finished at home, coming back, so that window that I reworked, and that one that I started of the living room. So the first one is from the studio, looking at the living room where I would usually take pictures. So yeah, again, playing with the space. It doesn't make sense everywhere, but as long as the painting works, that's all that matters for me at the end. And some installation shots. So that was so cool. When I got there, Matt just handed me a hammer and he said, "You do your thing." So I couldn't believe I could hammer straight in the walls of the PK house. That was surreal. We had jazz music on, so I think the installation follows a little bit jazz. I just did this kind of diagonal installation with it and turned on the other wall to make it more dynamic. And this is how I plan to install the shingles paintings. So I kind of had this idea of doing a Morse code. So some paintings were together, others were separate, and I just took my plan and then put them on the wall directly. And as Joyce said, I just wanted to brag a little bit because here are 5 of my paintings just underneath a Pollock. That's a surreal experience. I cannot believe still that this happens. I'm gonna have that picture framed and put in my house because I still can't believe it and I will never get over it. This is such an honor and really a surreal experience. So yeah, another installation shot. And what's next? So this was a painting I did of a little object that Lee has that wasn't successful. I didn't like it. And when I was in Long Island, I went to the Bioscleves house, which, if you're in the area, once it's going to be renovated, go check it out. It's amazing. It's from Madeline Jeans and Arakawa. So they call it a house, but it's really more an installation. And so, yeah, this painting became this painting. And now I'm working on turning paintings into 3D objects and trying to look at them from every angle and having people play with them. So I want to turn them kind of into Legos. So this was again an unsuccessful painting from the residency that I turned and reworked with this new project. So this is the end of my presentation. And yeah,
Marie Claire, thank you so much.
my pleasure. Thank you for having
Okay,
me.
that was so inspiring, and so it was like literally awe-inspiring. And
Thank you.
well, first off, the number of artworks you created is just like remarkable. How many paintings did you make in total out of that residency?
Oh, I have the exact number. I know I showed 86 because I had to find 86 titles, which was a nightmare. I paint for a reason. I think words are so direct, and ugh, so that was, yeah. So I know I showed 86. I have it somewhere. I think I made over 100 paintings and a little over 100, and I made like 25 drawings.
Wow. And I love the way you contrasted and shared with us these playful paintings of these shingles that was like sparking your creativity. And then these other paintings that are more, derived, they're not realistic, but they're derived from representation. Did you feel that like those playful paintings kind of opened you up for the other paintings? How did they relate like?
Oh, for sure. Like they would unstuck me when I would be too much in my head because I can't work with a definite plan. Usually in a photograph, I'll stick on like I want to do that light or I like that kind of shape or it's usually an element. So after a couple, I would get stuck looking for something interesting and getting in my head. So the shingles paintings were an escape totally. And with the shingles painting, like I didn't have any, like so many were bad and I didn't care because they were like exercises. They weren't supposed to be complete, perfect little entities. Like as I said, they were kind of dreamscapes to me. So anything can happen in a dreamscape as representing the barn. It had to look like the barn, you know. So yeah, they were really good counterweight, creatively speaking.
Yeah, I think that's a really helpful tip for people who are on the Zoom. So does anybody have questions? You can feel free to put them in the chat. We'll take a moment. If you want to collect your thoughts, you could put that in the chat. I just have one other question because I'm so impressed. So what is your studio practice? Because I know you work, you do other things besides art. So can you share with us your studio practice? How do you arrange your time or how do you get so much accomplished?
I usually work because at work I work at a phone and internet providing company, so I usually work from 11 till 7 o'clock. So it gives me enough time at night to work or in the morning. So yeah, usually it's just a drive. I need to do something because I have an idea and it needs to happen now. So I just go for it. And I work, my boring work is at home, but in my studio. So I'm always surrounded with what I do. And when I have work in progress, I have it usually in my living room where I will read or watch TV. So my studio being at home makes it so much easier. I can access all the time when I have an idea, when I have a spark. And I usually like to work on many pieces at a time. So because I'm impatient. So while it dries, I can do something else. And again, reusing the same paint on the palette. That comes from the pandemic again, because I didn't have access to so much materials as before. So I started not wasting anything, which is a good thing. And again, that sparks sometimes new ideas that I didn't think about just because it's not the right color for it, but it goes in another direction. So yeah, my practice is very mixed with my life. It's intertwined, and as soon as I have something that I want to do now, I do it, because I used to pile up these ideas and you end up not doing them. So I prefer to just start, see what happens. A lot of the times it doesn't work, but I paint over old paintings, so I don't care. It's just keep it moving. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I need it, because otherwise my life would be very boring if I was just working. I've always made art and drew since I was a little girl. So yeah, it's just part of where my time goes, I guess.
Yeah. You're really a good example of, creativity, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Now, Carolina has a logistical question. How long did the residency last?
I stayed there for 2 weeks in total. And Matt was really open about the time. I decided for how long I wanted to stay. And then I had a year to create a whole body of work. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, Marie Claire, I enjoyed this so much. I really did. And, I also enjoyed meeting you. And I
Saying you were
understand
so nice
also,
to me and welcoming. Thank you so
I,
much.
I
Really.
understand also when you came here and it was like looking out that dark window into the pitch black, because that happened to me when I came from the city. I was like, I have to go back to Manhattan where it's safe. Like, I understand that, but I hope you come back again.
Oh, for sure. I have to go back to the Bioscleves house too once it's finished, because I want to see it finished. It was so, so cool. And of course, I want to go back to see you guys. And yeah, of course, I'm going to be back for sure.
Good. So thank you so much to our Canadian artist, Marie Claire wait, I'm so sorry. Could you pronounce your last name?
Chabauty.
Okay.